family.
Good morning.
For his name is great and worthy to be praised. I just thank God right now for this opportunity that he has called me forth to do. And I shall do it to the best of my ability.
Amen.
Because of who he is in my life. I thank God for Bishop in her absence. You know, sometimes when fear jumps in, you feel like it's things that you can't accomplish. But when you lean on the shoulder of God,
Come on now. That's right.
and know that he's your all and all,
Yes. Amen.
he will bring you through every time.
Yes.
So I just thank him this morning. And if we can just turn to the books of Acts. I have my Bible, but I actually like this version of the easy that I would like to read it from. And that's Acts chapter 27, starting at verse 18. Acts 27, starting at verse 18. Say amen when you find it. Amen. And it reads as thus. The strong storms continued to blow against the ship. The ship was carrying many things. So the next day, the sailor threw some of these things into the sea. The day after that, they took hold of the sails and ropes, and they threw them into the sea. For many days, we did not see the sun or any stars. The storm continued to grow strongly. So then we thought, it's not possible for us to remain alive. The men of the ship had not eaten any food for a long time. So Paul stood in front of them, and he said, "Men, you should have listened to me. We should not have sailed away from Crete. If we had not left there, the ship and everything on it would still be safe. Now I ask you, please be brave. The storm will completely destroy the ship, but not one of you will die." Last night, one of God's angels spoke to me. I am a servant of God, and I belong to him. He sent his angels to me. He sent his angels to come to me. The angel said, "Paul, do not be afraid. You must go to Rome, and Caesar will judge you there. Because of you, God will be kind to all the people on the ship with you. None of them will die. Because of the angel's message, I say to you, be brave, my friend. I trust God. I know that everything will happen in the way that the angel told me. For the wind will blow the ship so that we hit an island." The storm had continued for 14 days and nights. The strong wind was blowing the ship across the Mediterranean Sea. About midnight, the soldiers thought that they were near to the land. So they used a rope to measure how deep the water was. They saw that the water was nearly 40 meters deep. A short time after that, they did this again. This time, the water was only 30 meters deep. Today, I bring you church. Don't give up in the storm, just turn up. Don't give up in the storm, just turn up. Heavenly Father, I come before you on this day, giving you thanks, honor, and praise, God, for using me to be your vessel, to serve your people, God. God, I ask that you decrease me and increase you, Father God, that I will carry out the will that you have called for me to do on this day. In your Son, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Don't give up in the storm, just turn up. When reading the book of Acts, it tells us that Paul spent some time in prison. Although we can't be certain how much time Paul was in sentence was. But according to the book of the Acts of the Apostle, Paul had already been arrested and was on his way to Rome to stand trial. The scripture tells us that Paul was in serious trouble, so much trouble that it placed his life and the lives around him in real danger. For we are told that they was on a ship caught up during a storm. This was not Paul's only trouble. He had trouble before he encountered the storm. And now he's on this ship caught up during a turbulent and a life-threatening storm, which was more trouble. And isn't that the way it is in life? Sometimes before we can put one problem to rest, we find ourselves confronted by another. I tell you from my own experience that the problem of life sometimes comes upon us, and before we can get one thing straightened out, we are bombarded with another. And no one can better testify to that than Job. Job, you may recall, faced series of problems that came one behind another. He had not gotten over one trauma, and that also impacted the first problem before he was hit with another. And before he could really come to grips with the first and second problem, he was hit with a third one. And the problem kept on coming. Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, life is just like that old saying, when it rains, it pours. And for that reason, Job said in Job 14:1 of the King James Version, man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. And as it is with Job, so it is with Paul. We find Paul in major trouble. And if I could put my pen right there, church, I would say, because we are children of God, doesn't mean we won't face any trouble.
That's right.
The question comes this morning on how will we face those storms when they come? And how shall we respond to them? And just in case there's someone looking at me who finds themselves in the midst of a storm, I submit to you this morning, don't give up. Just turn up in your storm. There are some lessons that we can learn from the episode in the life of Apostle Paul. I believe I can serve a tool that can help us when we encounter our individual storms. First thing we can learn is, one, they did not listen. Now, before they set sail from the island of Crete, Paul had already told the army officer. The army officer is the one that Paul was placed in the custody of to make it to Rome. See, God always placed us in custody of people when we're in trouble, to help us to get from point A to point Z. I don't think you ought to make this trip, at least now. I hope you will wait a little while longer. I know the itinerary. I know there are prisoners in addition to myself that must be delivered to various places, but I wish you will wait a little while longer. Paul also said, I perceive that it would be life-threatening if you set sail right now. But the army officer disregarded what Paul had to say. Don't look around now, but there are so many of us in our day and time that ignore the thing that God has to say to us. There are those frequent visits at the altar, including myself, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, who are not listening to what God has to say. Many people make true to the words of O.J. that says, your body is here with me, but your mind is on the other side of town. Do you know that some people are at the church, but they are not really in the church. I say that again. Don't you know that some people are at the church, but they're not really in the church? Church, there's a danger in missing the message. So often the warning is given, but because we are not listening, we find ourselves in stormy situations. 2, they launched out too soon, or they departed too soon. But I can't really criticize the Army officer too much. For if I'm totally honest, there have been some times in my life when I have launched out or departed too soon. Now that constitutes launching out too soon. Now what does constitute launching out too soon mean? Well, if I can take a break and tell you this. You're launching out too soon when you're doing something before God says to do it. When you jump into something without God's endorsement, without God's direction, and without God's blessing, that's moving too soon. In fact, sometimes we want to do what we want to do, God doesn't have for us to do. It may not even be in God's will for our life. And then sometimes, although He has it for us, He doesn't have it for us right then and there. We must learn to be patient, saints. The army officer refused to listen to Paul and launched out too soon. And shortly after launching out, they fell into the midst of a raging storm. The storm was identified in verse 14 of the King James Version. It was called the Euroclydon. Now that storm was an awesome storm, awful storm. That storm was a granddaddy of all storms. It was the wind of a great fury that came out of the northeast. It came howling like 10,000 wolves. The sound of it was eerie, frightening, and it would be terrible things to the waves. It would do terrible things to the waves. It would aggravate the sea. It would cause the sea to become rough and turbulent. Ships that was caught in this typhoon-like situation found themselves being kicked like footballs from one wave to another. And the giant waves that was higher than the ship would be beat against the ship. Water would splash upon those on board, and the men on board the ship would be rolling around and tossed to and from like marbles on a concrete floor, and going up and down like a seesaw. They was in this life-threatening situation, all because, 1, they didn't listen, and 2, they launched out too soon. But no matter what, the storm lasted a long time. This storm didn't last just a few days. It lasted 14 days to be exact. Now, when it first started, the crew members hoped with all that was within them that they would soon pass over this storm. But it didn't. Today, someone here might be in a storm. And it's not a storm that has been around just for a little while. But it seems like it's been raging for a long time. And you hope so much that it will soon pass over. But it's still raging, despite of all your prayers, despite of what you have done. And it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. The storm of life can come in so many ways. Look at Trump. And how he is brewing up different storms in the life of our people. People losing their jobs. People losing their homes. The storms is entering into the homes and causing much chaos.
Yes.
The storm get into the church and cause separation.
Yes. Come on.
Storms can affect our health. And one bad report from the doctor causes our life to look like it's becoming to an end. Those on board of the ship, along with Paul, were in an awesome storm. And it kept on raging. And the report is that on the third day, they started throwing heavy cargo overboard. When we are in a storm, there are some things that we need to do. We need to get rid of those things that is weighing us down in that storm.
That's right.
Because it won't allow you to float like you should float. There are some relationships, habits, lifestyle, some attitudes that need to be thrown overboard. All they're doing is weighing you down. Scripture tells us that the storm kept on raging, so they took down the sails because they could not go against the wind, and if they decided to float with the storm. And as it is near toward the end of this series of days, some say day 13, Paul realized that man had reached the state of hopelessness. For you see, all these days had gone by, and they had not been able to see the sun nor the stars. When you don't see any light at the end of your storm, it can make you want to give up. Paul decided he would step in at this point and remind them that they should have listened to him in the beginning. For he warned them before they left Crete not to sail. My brothers and sisters, in spite of the shaking, in spite of the thunder, and in spite of the lightning, in spite of the waves that is seemingly willing to destroy your ship, the angel told Paul that everything will be all right. I must tell you this morning, if you're in a storm, everything is going to be all right. Don't give up in the storm. Just turn up. Psalms 30:5 says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy does come in the morning. I must go to my seat. But you know, when the storms of life are raging, it's easier said than done to be a good cheerer. When you are in the midst of your storm, it is not easy to be a good cheerer. It's all right for someone else to encourage you. But maybe they are not going through what you are going through. For it is easy for them to say, to be of a good cheerer. But it's good to hear somebody that is in the same boat that you're in to say, be of a good cheerer. Paul was in the boat with the armor officers. Soldiers and other prisoners was in there as well. The record is that the wind kept on blowing. But you must remember, the storm, once you receive good news, God is going to deliver you. The devil will turn up the volume and cause the wind to blow harder. He will cause the lightning to flash even more. And the thunder to roll even more. Church, I want you to get in the habit of telling your storms how big your God is. And stop telling God how big your storm is. Because he already knows about that storm. God needs somebody in the storm to have faith. I want to know how, excuse me y'all, God needs somebody in the storm to have faith. And say in the storm, I know it's rough, and I know it's hard, but keep coming out of the storm. I know it's difficult, and I know the situation is serious, but I'm coming through in the storm.
Yes, yes, yes.
When you are in the storm, you must learn to sing storm songs.
Yes.
And some of the songs I love to hear when going through a storm. I'm so glad trouble don't last always. Jesus, be a fence around me every day. Pass me not, oh gentle Savior. I am encouraged this morning, knowing our souls has been anchored in the Lord. Jesus, the one who died for us, led to Calvary. He was early one Friday morning, bear the sins of this world on his shoulders.